Hey there, it's Scott with HVAC Technicians Sales Secrets coming to you live today, and I want to talk to you about your sales process. And this is something that's super important. You know, I've had the honor and privilege of working with tons of technicians. For 10 years, I was a corporate trainer, and every morning I worked with technicians. I got to see what the guys did that were the best. I got to see what the guys and the girls did that struggled, okay? And so one of the things that I want you to recognize is that as you go down linearly through your sales process, if you start all the way up here from your door approach, whatever way that you do that, and all the way that you get to your end, there's going to be a net result. There's going to be an end of things that you do. So like when you pull off the door of a furnace or an air handler, there's a flow chart in some of the manufacturers. It'll say like, if this happens and this happens, if this happens and this happens, if this happens, like it's a ladder diagram, and it just takes you through the process. Well, the same thing happens with your sales. The same things happen when you take a look at how you're going to interact with a buyer. So if you are running no agenda, if you are flying by the seat of your pants, I'm going to give you some standard numbers. You will sell club memberships or partnership plans, whatever you call them, wherever you're at, your maintenance programs, between 13 and 17%. Okay? I know this because I was able to keep track of lots of data from lots of technicians over 10 years. I know this, that if you go into a sales process and you don't use one, you're going to close about 25% of the time. People are just going to say yes to say yes. 25% of the time, people are like, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Okay? So if you're closing at 25%, you have a lot of room of capability. You have a lot more skills. You have a lot more talent. You have a lot more that you could be doing. And you're like, hey, Scott, that's kind of mean for you to say, I'm doing really well at 25%. Well, my thing is, you're running 100% of calls. Why don't we try to figure out a way to get you 15, 20% more? Like anytime that I work with a technician, I say, hey, my role and responsibility to help you is to add $20,000 to your income at least in a year, right? You work with me, I'm going to add $20,000 to your income. You do what I show you how to do, you take the process, you implement, there's going to be some reward at the end of the rainbow, right? I know this for certain because I've done it enough in my lifetime. So what you need to know is you're working with what marketing would call a funnel. You're taking people down a pathway. And so you are leveraging 90 minutes of work, 60 minutes of work, 45 minutes of work to get a 3-minute conversation to ask one question, right? It's a funnel. It's going like this. And so if I drew this diagram out for you, it would look like it's an upside down triangle. And down at the bottom, you're going to go have your conversation with your client, your homeowner, your business owner, and you're going to tell them and explain to them what's going on with their system, with their ductwork, with their insulation, with their home, whatever the case may be, whatever you're doing there. You're going to have this conversation that's going to lead to the end of this funnel. And so you have to be prepared. In one of the videos I shot, I talked about a playbook. And so if you're keeping track of your playbook, you have some sort of set process that you're using. You have some sort of set diagram that you're working off of. And this is why I recommend that you work off of a checklist. So homeowner comes out to you, hey, how's it going? Sorry, homeowner, I'm still in my investigation. Like you have to take all of that information down. And I know this may be contrary to what people may say in the industry, like, well, tell them what's going on. Now, there's been a couple of times when I was a technician where somebody would come to me and like, hey, Scott, what's going on with the system? Oh, you got a bad capacitor, change it. So I change the capacitor, I'm going through, doing my tune-up, doing my diagnostic, and it's got more problems. It's got a fan motor that's got an issue. The system's undercharged. You know, there's a leak in the coil. And so what would happen is the consumer, the homeowner, or the business owner would get upset because they were like, well, you changed the capacitor out on me, right? You took this capacitor out, and I know capacitor. You took this capacitor out and you changed it and you said that everything was going to be all good, right? This is why it's so important for you to recognize the patterns that you're having inside of your sales process, inside of working with your homeowners, inside of working with your buyers. Now, if you go to HVAC Secrets, HVACTechSecrets.com, it'll be on the screen, HVAC Tech Secrets, that'll sign you up for my list where you're going to get more HVAC technician sales secrets than what I'm going to put here on YouTube, because I'm not going to put them all here on YouTube. I spent too much time, effort, and energy putting this stuff together. 5 books, 600,000 words, just know a little bit about how to be a heating and air tech. So what you need to know is you can burn a call by not having your sales process set up the proper way. There's been plenty of times where I've ridden with technicians and they could have set a lead for a system where appropriate. They could have sold parts where appropriate. They could have sold a club membership where appropriate, or partnership plan, whatever you want to call it, maintenance agreement. They could have sold an add-on sale where appropriate. Now remember, I'm saying where appropriate because there was an opportunity to sell something. Don't make stuff up. You don't have to. There's so much business out there in the heating and air world, plumbing world, electrical world, like anything that you do inside of a home, there's plenty of business. You don't have to make anything up, okay? So if you don't put in this work, if you don't put in this process, you're going to close a few of the deals. You will, by nature. People will say yes. They're like, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. But you're not going to close as many as you could by having the proper process in place, by doing a set dance. So things that I'm not good at, I'm not good at dancing. So I went to a ballroom here in Sacramento, and like I'm a single dude. I'm like, hey, it might be interesting for me to go learn ballroom dancing because it sounds interesting. There's a dance. There's physical moves that you make inside of a dance. There is mental moves that you make inside of a sales process. There's physical actions that you take inside of a sales process. And if you're not paying attention, you're going to step on your buyer's toes. And stepping on your buyer's toes typically means that they tell you no, or I want to think about it, or I'm getting other bids. So there's a trust issue when somebody sees that you know what you're doing, you know how to explain damage, there's an order of operation that you're taking people through. And just so you know, if you're not using an order of operation, you're running by default. And by default, you're going to lose deals. So the average technician runs between, I don't know, 600 and 800 calls a year. Let's say if we could get 10% more of those to sell, 60 of them, 10% more of those to sell. What would that mean for you, for your family, for your company, where appropriate? Remember, I'm not telling you to make stuff up. In fact, I'm going completely opposite. Use your consumer bill of rights that we talked about in the first video on this channel. Use your consumer bill of rights to make sure that you're doing the right thing for the consumer. And part of that is to have a process that makes it really easy for them to follow. There's tons of guys in this industry, tons of women in this industry who teach heating and air conditioning processes. Follow one of them. It doesn't have to be mine. You're like, I like this dude. Okay, follow his. I like that dude. Follow his. I like this chick. Follow hers. I'm not saying you have to follow what I do. Will it make sense? Yeah, absolutely, because I put it together. Can it do well for you? Absolutely. So just so you know, by default, if you're not following a process, you're following a process and you're not closing as many deals as you could where appropriate. There you go. HVACtechsecrets.com will take you to the email list. In there will be like the instructions for the Facebook group. We'll see you soon. Thanks for dropping by.